Dice Paper Roll is recorded on the lands of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
Welcome back, folks. We're doing a second mailbag because we'd goofed up, probably. If you're hearing this, we goofed up, probably. So, welcome to another mailbag.
Thanks for rummaging around in DPR's mailbag.
Yeah, Greg did a better intro for the last one, so you can go back and listen to that one. Imagine I said it as eloquently as Greg.
You did a great intro.
That was good,
Jack.
I'm always fishing for compliments, so it's good.
Which is good. Which is why you always play undersea characters.
Hi-oh.
Hey.
Oh,
You know when you beat Ben to a joke that things are bad. Well, my name's Greg Pickering, and I'll be playing Greg Pickering. That joke was way better the first time round too. Fuck.
Yeah. I'm
Soft
Jack.
start.
My name's Ben, and I too am a cast member of this podcast who will be talking about our own podcast. This is a real kiss on the dick kind of concept. I also edit and kind of co-produce the show, I guess. If we want to look, I'm a human male podcaster.
No, don't say that. It'll become too obvious.
Okay.
We'll have to think about it too much. I'm Jack. I make all of the artwork, except for when Lauren does.
Yeah, except for me. I'm Lauren Bock. I play the filthy casual of DPR. So excited to be back here and see what people have been shoving in our slot.
And I'm Dan. I play Thandor and Hans in the 2 campaigns that we've got going, and sometimes DM. And yeah, cool.
Hashtag 20 levels.
Hashtag 20
Yeah,
levels.
nice one. Nice classic intro there, Dan.
Yeah,
good one. Yeah.
Classic throwback to the real pod.
I like it. Yeah, good one.
So if you've keenly been awaiting this mailbag episode, and we have no idea how long it's been since we released the last one, but we left you
probably
on
about 5 minutes.
Yeah, probably. We left you on a bit of a cliffhanger talking about
Can't help it.
Remember that one?
Master.
Can't help it.
How can I forget that cliffhanger?
We love a cliffhanger.
At least Tez, who asked the question, would have been like, damn you. You asked it and then stopped the episode. So I don't know, feel like that's a good place to start is as a DM, how do you control the chaos, or do you even try?
No, you don't.
I suppress my emotions.
Yeah.
Push it down.
You don't suppress the chaos. Yeah, you encourage the chaos.
Yeah, totally.
The chaos is gold. That's where those flinty nuggets just pop up to the surface.
How much of your DMing is a result of the things that you want to do, or the things that you've seen other people fuck up at that made you just go, nah, I'm doing it my way this time?
Oh, I mean, a lot of it is the result for me. A lot of it is the result of my previous fuck ups. And
I was reaching for the PB.
Yeah, always trying to. Well, no, I try to learn from my mistakes and not, shit in my own nest and just keep doing better every time.
Yeah.
But I think the chaos is the best bit. Like I want to encourage everyone to start the banter, and then you get dog's milk and bookie wookies and like all the good shit from just when it's just super random.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've come to the conclusion, like, as much as I can right for as much as I can possibly think of. The players are always going to make it infinitely better and bring things that I never thought, never even crossed my mind. So when those moments happen by people fucking around and just throwing ideas out there or just trying to make a small side gag and that kind of thing, then not allowing that to just be a gag and then it's like, oh no, like forget about what just happened then for a moment. Actually go, yeah, no, that happens. And then that joke can continue on and that can build more and people can add to it so that it's not just a series of kind of one-liners, even though we do those all the time as well. It's just allowing for the people to influence the world, because then that gives the player better, feelings of agency, that it's not just, oh, we're just playing Dan's story. I can still affect this and things can happen. And really, in the end, you're still going to end up at the bandit camp. It's still going to happen.
Yeah.
So the things that happen along the way, who cares? Like, we were going to just like be on horseback for 30 minutes. Like, oh, cool. Great
and now
story.
Instead the players are doing hand carts and handstands all the way or some stupid shit. Yeah. I think I've found that the games I have written too much, you can probably hear it at points through the podcast, is that willingness to want to go back to that. And because there is so much chaos in the game, sometimes that can be quite hard to do. And so I've always felt my better games have been the ones that were a bit looser, that just had the signposts along the way with a couple of descriptive moments, and allows for just a lot more collaboration, I think, as opposed to really being like, nah, this is the cool stuff that has to happen. And that's been a big learning curve for me, I think, as a DM for a podcast, because
but would you say that you started out like really overwriting it and sort of got loose as you went along, or was it always an MO?
The podcast?
Your DMing experience?
Or as a DM?
As a DM.
My first ever experience as a DM, I basically rewrote a fucking book series that I had read and just wrote down all these quotes and was just reading it at the guise of what happens.
Geez.
And I had no real concept of what it was to DM. I learnt pretty fucking quickly from there.
Yeah, right. How much did you actually get through that book?
Oh, not very far. We never finished that game. Like, that night was a disaster. Everyone was like, yeah, we're just going to go off and drink beers. And
Is there anything sadder than a D&D failure? Jesus.
Yeah. No, but it was, in a way, it was a really good learning curve, really. But I mean, fast forward, 20 years to the podcast. I don't know if it's changed. I haven't DM'd for the podcast for such a long time. I know that the chaos of it, I do tend to be more of a controlling person. I think what?
No one steps in to say,
I'm glad
no.
you said that, Lauren.
No. That's fine. I was not fishing. The chaos.
I didn't ask for your response, everyone.
Yeah. I was talking.
The only feedback I will be accepting is praise. Continue.
Yes, thank you. No, the chaos does scare me a bit. I learn a lot from the way,
sure.
and what I have tried to change is from both Danny and Greg a lot, and I admire what those guys do a lot. And the chaos scares me. When I give way to it, it's always great, but it's always scary.
My favorite, because I've only DM'd like 3 or 4 times. What is it? Like 3 times, 4? I don't know. It doesn't matter. And that's podcast episodes essentially, not like campaigns. And my first time DMing was really on stage at Melbourne International Comedy Festival, and my favorite part of it was like I wrote all of this stuff at the beginning, and I wrote all of this stuff at the end, and I knew where I wanted to start and I knew where I wanted to end, and then I wanted us to go to an open world pub, and I didn't really write anything else in there, but I wrote a whole bunch of stuff for all of the characters in there, and then the probably keen listeners would have listened, but eventually it became apparent that that the mother of Jesus was in the pub, and then it turned out that Jesus was downstairs as well. But I had not planned for that at all, and I was desperately trying to avoid us having a combat, and certainly not with Jesus.
It was zombie Jesus. Like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, zombie Jesus.
And like we had a break, and at the halfway mark, and Emil comes up to me, and he's like, "You gotta put zombie Jesus in the basement. You gotta do it." And I was like, "Oh, do you think really? I hadn't really planned to." He's like, "Nah, you got to do it." And I was like, "Okay, all right." And so we get up
Easter
there.
time as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an Easter show.
Oh,
Yeah.
what was on your brain, Jack?
Yeah, maybe.
I think I actually was the one that.
Oh,
said
was
about
it-
zombie
was it you,
Jesus,
Dan?
because that's a
Sorry.
running gag in my family. Every Easter is about zombie Jesus because he comes back to life. It's weird.
Yeah, right. It is.
That's
weird.
follow the yellow belly toad in
Yeah.
our live eps. For
Such a
anybody
good
who's interested.
episode.
It was-
I
it was
hats
weird.
off to you, man, for DMing really for the first time ever in front of a
Yeah.
live episode. We had one test game like the week before
Yeah, that's right.
that was in the pod cave with microphones, but Greg wasn't there. Not to say that diminishes the
It
experience.
was shit.
But
It was
yeah.
shit without me.
It wasn't the same. That was good. That was for sure.
It's actually pretty good.
What about you, Lauren? Any aspirations to DM? Could you see yourself doing that?
Yeah, I
any
think
point?
I think I could. I could definitely do that. I have no idea
Yeah.
what it is or what you have to do. You keep talking about how you have to write stuff. And it was weird when you were describing it. It sounds very much, and why I think I asked the question about if you started off writing more and got loose as you went on. Because I see it a lot when people start out doing stand-up comedy, that they really tightly script their sets, and to the point where like people will write in like ums and pauses and faces and things.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've
Really?
seen like full
Mm.
scripts of stand-up sets with like, make this face here, pause here, say like word for word how you would casually say something. And I think it does kind of come back to people
Wow.
just they just want to, luck favors the prepared, that you want to make sure you go into something as prepared as possible. But unfortunately in that preparation you completely lose like the sort of live aspect of it, the reason that people are even there to see you, which is, it's a human voice in your ears, or it's a, human standing on stage. And that's exciting, and I think the more you go on in stand-up, the more that you realize that what you want to do is not go on stage. If you write 100 words, you have to memorize 100 words. If you go up there with 3 things that you want to talk about, you only need to remember those 3, and now you form like a set list, so that you might have 8 or 9 things that are just like one word that reminds you of a 3 or 4 minute bit that you want to say. And that's why a hand is a perfect set list size. So you
Yeah,
write your
right.
little set list on your hand
It's such a
before you go on stage, so then you've got something. So I call it my Dumbo's magic feather.
I wish I'd had that as a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a great way to think about it, though, because I think even in listening to you talk about, it's similar for D&D, but using a stand-up comedy term, just for a minute there clicked. I was like, I've never really thought about that's why preparing so much has often made me
Yes.
anxious, because it's like it never fucking happens. So then you got to
Yeah.
stick to this thing, right? And
Yeah.
you got to think, how do I get them back to that rather than, and I have learned over the years, well, who else might drop that information? But I've never really done the full game of improvisation. And like, I think you did one, Jack, live in Adelaide where we used the phones to
Generate
Right.
the story.
Oh, fun.
yeah.
That sounds
And,
terrifying.
man, I would
Oh.
never do that in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I cried so badly afterwards.
Mm,
I was in tears.
mm.
Like that's too much chaos.
Yeah.
For future reference.
Well,
Like,
but also for
There's a happy
like, you're
medium between that.
fledgling DM. Like it was
Yeah,
your
when you're
third
not-
game
yeah.
ever. That's
Yeah.
something that I'm not sure a lot of veterans.
let's
would
be
try.
honest. I just didn't want to do any prep,
Oh,
did
yeah.
I?
I think
learned that.
if you-
I learned
I
that
think
lesson.
if you've got like a lot of experience behind you, you've got old tropes you can
Yeah.
roll out at a
Yeah.
moment's notice to make it a reasonable game, particularly just for an hour or whatever. But I think otherwise, like I'm super lazy and
Mhm.
always have been, and so it's been a real benefit to me as a DM because I'll just write a few points, like the points on the hand sort of thing, and move through those, and I think it if you just have those general points, you're so much more adaptable
Yeah.
Mm.
to whatever shit comes up. And
Yeah.
and honestly, I often find like there's two things that happen. Like either what the players are doing will feed, like you'll have an epiphany of how that feeds into your story anyway, or how you can work it in. Or otherwise, if they're totally off track, they're like a bunch of toddlers. You just let them go and they tire themselves out, and then you just drop a little hook in front of them and they're like, snack time. And off they go onto the
Can't
story.
believe- So Dungeon Master is
So-
really about when to jingle the keys at somebody? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah,
a little
pretty
bit.
much. When do you
Yeah.
jingle the keys? Yeah.
Bandit Camp? Come on, let's go.
Yeah, come on.
Taco has asked a question which kind of maybe relates to that, and you could probably speak to Greg.
Taco.
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 Asking
Taco Tom.
about, I lost where I put it anyway, but it was asking about the difference as players. I'm not sure if there is a huge difference as players, but as a DM, going from homebrew content to running a prepped Wizards of the Coast module, and so how you incorporate what you were just talking about in that context.
Mm.
I mean,
Have you guys
because
run a module before?
I have,
yeah. Like I did that. I did that one called
Oh, yeah.
Grace of the
Mm-hmm. Wildebeest.
Grace of the Wildebeest, and
It's a good one.
yeah. And in
Classic.
that one, you follow the beast through the forest.
Ben, you did
Gets real
Sunless Citadel,
hot.
didn't you? Sunless Citadel?
I did it a very long time ago when
Yeah.
3.5 first came out, but I did it recently for a different group, like a new group of players, which was actually really lovely to be able to use a whole bunch of old D&D like DM tricks, bag of tricks for new players because they had
That's the
no
best.
experience of the game at all. And it was a bit weird to kind of be like, oh, I've got this in this room and this is in this room. It was a little bit hard to wrap your head around something you haven't written. You just got to be prepared for it, I think. And
Yeah.
and
I was
going-
interested in how you find it because you're a really prep as a DM, and like as opposed to me who preps so little. And because it's got so much content in those prepared modules.
Yeah, I find it useful. The reason I did it that time was because I was going into quite a busy period, and I thought, well, I just can't be bothered home brewing something for a bunch of people, so they won't know any better because they've never played before, so they'll still love it. I'll still make it great, but I won't have to really write anything. But the effort came from being across somebody else's story. So even there was a lot
Yeah.
of detail in it, I still found it a bit. There was a bit of anxiety in wanting to get it right, even though they wouldn't know that if I was getting it right or not. And I actually, after a couple of sessions, just started adapting stuff and doing things on the fly anyway, and stealing encounters and and rolling with the punches as we went. And as you said, kind of, dangling the snack when you needed to in front of them. But I had not thought of it in those terms before.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that, Danny?
In those insulting terms.
Hello to my group if you're listening.
I started playing Out of the Abyss for a group of new players, which is mainly my brothers and a couple of their friends. And we barely even got out of the first room because it was just chaos. It was more chaotic than what the podcast is. But my problem
like a challenge.
was it sprung up in like a week, and they were like, oh, actually we've all got time and we'd like to play some D&D. You guys were talking about, because I've been trying to get him to play D&D for friggin' years since we've been playing in the podcast. And then they finally acquiesced and were like, oh yeah, cool, we'll make some characters and that kind of thing. But so I kind of had a short period of time. So I was just like, oh, I'll just run Out of the Abyss and I'll just do the first bit. It's not going to be that big of a deal. And I ran into that same problem that Ben was just sort of saying about, like, when you're running your own campaign and you're making stuff up, or even just the fact that it's all up in your head, you're imagining this world and what the places are and the people of interest and that kind of thing. It's just like easy to just pull that information out. Whereas when it's something that's written in a book, I found like, I was like, oh shit, I actually don't know anything about this. I thought this was going to be a lot easier because I'd just be able to read the book along while we're playing and that kind of thing. And it's like, no, you can't do that. So I've been like reading that book to be like, oh, okay, all right. So now the next time that we play, once we get out of lockdown or whatever, it'll be like, okay, cool. You can go and do this thing and you can go here and do that. And I'm not going to do the actual full campaign because I do want to eventually kind of homebrew and bring their influence into it. But yeah, I found it to be a lot more difficult to do just because it is there in print, and unless you're across the whole kind of story, it's harder to be able to improvise and that sort of thing in those moments and still remain within the world of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever do that. I don't think I'm ever going to do it.
No, that's fair enough. Though it does not suit you, Jack.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
It does not suit you at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only run Curse of Strahd as a module, and I ran it for a separate group. And I read the book roughly, but I wasn't doing as much reading before the games as I should have been. And so like I made a lot of errors with the world. Like I mashed towns together. Like I mashed two of the major centers together and had stuff from each of the others going on in the same one. But I like, again, maybe it's just, I don't care. Like I didn't care. I just did it and it was great. And I just carried it on, and I took the lessons from that into our campaign. And I think like anything, like you read it and there's some great stuff. Like Curse of Strahd, I love that campaign. I think it's fantastic. I think it's dark and there's some wonderful sort of the story weaves around and crisscrosses and things come back. And you know, I love seeing that happen, and I love trying to set that up and trying to get those aha moments for players and hopefully the audience. But I think it's like anything D&D. Like I think the more you worry about getting it right, inverted commas, the more the more difficult you make it for yourself, and the more you just like have fun and let it flow and try and hit those major points and bring it all together, the better the experience is going to be.
Yeah, 100%. And the willingness to change what is, I think because it's pre-written, it can feel like it has to happen, but the willingness to change that. I'm also running lost minds of Fandelver for a couple of other friends at the moment. I just
Such
realized,
nerds.
but it's hailed as a really good starter set,
Yeah.
but it's actually a bit of a shit story. Some of it, like the main villain, is really poorly
Shut
fleshed
up.
out.
Nah, but like if you want
Don't say
to
that.
sponsor us,
Yeah, no, we love you,
We
Wizards.
love you.
We love you.
We love you.
it's
Well,
totally fine. Like
I mean, yeah,
we'll say
not bad.
anything.
Yeah, we will.
Fire,
We'll say
fire us
anything.
as writers, guys. Have you listened to us? No, but some of them you've got to change because it's not always going to fit what you're doing, or it's like that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. And I think
Yeah.
that the willingness to change that is important too.
Yeah.
I think let's have a final question.
Yep.
How'd you come up with your names? Irene asks.
Oh,
Gosh.
How did I
Thandor.
Thandor Bloodborne, which his surname never really kind of comes up very often. I think I put my
Wasn't there like a whole episode on your surname?
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't come up very often though. Is all I'm
What was it
saying.
again?
was like
Bloodborne?
he had his origin story.
Just
Yeah.
that 1 hour we
Right.
spent on it.
No,
Yeah.
it wasn't an hour.
It was more like 3, and then Ben edited
Edited
it
it
down.
down.
Yeah, it was really not very interesting.
And then Ben cut all the ums out, and it was an hour.
yeah, because I a lot.
We all do. We all.
Now I'm really trying not to Thandor, I think I put it into a fantasy name generator and just like
Yeah.
going through
Classic.
and just like scrolling through, and then I think it was Thandor. Thandor came up in that. And then Bloodborne was as I was coming up with his backstory and about Tempest, God of War and that kind of thing. And then I had this idea about if a child was orphaned by war, like their parents were killed in a war, then they were born in blood.
Mhm.
And so then it was Bloodborne. And then for the Such and Such family tree was I literally was just like, I like the name like Bertrand works, and Bertrand, and because of von Strad, I then went Bertrand von, and then I was like, fuck, what's the surname? Like, Bertrand von such and such, and then it was I just kept on saying like fucking such and such, like trying to, and I was like, such and such. They'll just be such and such, and then I just changed the lettering on it and put it in an accent, and it's like, such and such. Okay, great, love it. And so that's how Bertrand von Such and Such, and now Hans was just because it was like, fuck, Bertrand died. I need a new accent. I guess I'll go German. And it was like, what's a German name? Hans. Okay. He's Hans von Such and Such. That works. Cool. That's great. On to the next
Yeah.
bit. Let's get into another
Yeah, there's
episode.
a cadence to it, I think.
Love that they're siblings and they have different
When you
accents.
hit onto it, you're going to go,
Yeah.
yes, that's mine.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, they are sibling. Well, steps, half. I don't know, half brothers, step brothers. I don't know.
Sure.
I just keep on coming up
Did
with.
we just
things.
become best friends?
What about you, Lauren?
Yeah. For me,
Yeah, Lauren, how did you come
What's
up
the
with-
origin story of Flo?
yeah, because she's a moon dragon. Get it?
Oh my god, I never got
How did you never get
I
that?
never got that either.
because I was way too caught up in how I was writing her into the story and how I was going to finish off my arc with what was going on with the Moonstone
Oh
stuff
my
and
God.
the relation to the Moon Dragon. Oh my god, amazing!
I can't believe none of
Yeah,
you got
so
that.
great.
I feel like it did kind of
Oh,
pass.
I got it.
pass-
No,
Yeah,
I was
I got
with
it.
you.
You were with me?
I was with
Yeah.
you. I think you did.
I think I said
no, Lauren.
something.
I think you actually spoke
think I
about it a
did.
number of
Yeah.
times.
I was just preoccupied with getting my campaign right.
Just
Yeah.
no one else was
'cause
listening.
Ben and I were talking about the character. I was like, "A dragon would be great. I've always wanted to be a dragon. Dragons is my energy. I am, I have big dragon energy." And and then it was like cool, and you were like, "What kind of dragon?" And then you raffled off a few, and you said like moon dragon. I'm like, "Fucking moon dragon! Shut the front door. What would that be? That would be fun." And then I'm like, "Yeah, be a girl." And I'm like, "I'd be called Flo." I mean, obviously, if I'm the only
And Ben
girl
was
coming
like,
into this thing, then I'm gonna come
yep,
in as
cool.
the fucking hardest girl I possibly can. And start with a period joke for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And then I actually realized that her last name is Puddle Puff. Because I
Flo Puddle Puff.
Florence Puddle Puff.
Is that related to Puff the Magic Dragon?
When I was in year 4, I had a little. We wrote comic books, and I invented a little dragon guy. And the way we came up with the comic book characters, you had the thing where someone else writes the top and someone writes the bottom, and we rotated them in the class, and then you just got given one randomly. And my little character's name was Zeleon Zone. I don't know, some year 4-year-old, and then the last name was Puddle Puff. So I was like, Puddle Puff's
Amazing.
fucking
No,
great.
that's so much
in
more
my
wholesome
head,
than
my
mine.
canon is that Florence is related to Zeleon Zone Puddle Puff, my grade 4 comic book character.
That's
Amazing.
fucking sick.
That's great.
That's so cool.
So well thought out as
Fuck
well.
you.
Your character names are so well thought out.
Yeah, and then Epomia
as opposed to
Phosphine,
everyone
Epomia-
else's.
Epomia is a kind of morning glory, which I had to. Again,
Yeah.
I'm like, if you're going to do a dick joke, this is how
Yeah.
this works. And then
Yeah.
Phosphine's like a kind of light that you can't see that's not made from like a light source. So
Yeah.
it'll get you morning
Ah.
glory. love naming
Ariki's
things.
song.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, it makes
solid.
yeah.
You're good at
it's so good.
Mm.
Ariki's song was, I think Ariki. I think I did a name generator thing, and then I realized that song could be a last name, and then I was like, it'd be kind of funny if it was like apostrophe. There was an apostrophe there, and it was Ariki's song, and then that's how I came up with that.
That's it. You just thought it'd be funny.
Wow.
What,
That's
you
the
don't have a
joke.
And
deep
that's
origin
the
story
whole
from primary
campaign
school?
thread.
What? No?
Nah,
Crazy.
nah,
Yeah.
nothing.
But yeah, and that sparked us to write a whole
A
thing.
whole
Yeah.
campaign.
thing
Because-
around-
Campaign
Because it
around
turns
what
out
the
if you-
song is.
The less work you do, the more work your DMs will do for you.
I've learned
It's great.
something else.
And then with Curly, I came up with it because Curly liked the horse because I was looking at 2 separate name generators and noticed that Curly came up for crabs and also horses, and I thought that was funny. So it's Curly like the horse. Yeah.
Louise?
Which we never bothered to explain in the Versus Stride podcast.
Don't.
which I think made it all better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on Patreon in that episode 0, but you got to be listening out for it after about an hour and 20 minutes of crab chat.
Did you say crap jack or
No, crab chat.
oh,
Crab chat.
I also heard crab jab. I'm
Which is
sorry.
the same
I
as
also
crap.
heard that.
Which is-
yeah, me too.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
it is the same as crap jack. It's crab chat is the same thing.
you're not wrong. And
Yeah, what about Louise?
Louise? Well, it was clear that she was going to be French because she came from the sea, and
Canon.
French name.
Unless
I-
she was from the bit around Spain.
Yeah.
Unless she was from a bit around Spain. But I couldn't do a Spanish accent to save
Yeah.
my life. So but some would argue I can't do a French accent to save my life either. So I so I was like, oh, Louis is a French name. How about Louise? So
You used to have a character named Lewis who was
Oh,
a
that's
union
right.
organizer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
who,
right. Yeah.
Who handed out pamphlets a
Yeah,
lot.
it was good.
And this was an evolution of Louis, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I forgot about that. I'm so
Mm.
glad you remembered. As I said, the less you give, the more your DMs will give.
I always thought Louis was like a French revolutionary
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of name as well.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a king. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
opposite of the
nice.
revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, but-
totally.
Might be opposite.
Upholding the establishment,
know.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
24601, whatever, move on. All right.
They're complex characters.
How about how'd you come up with Snatch, Ben?
Yeah, I
Did
take
you
it
come
back.
up
I'm
with
not the first
that?
one to make a female anatomy joke on this show.
Well, it wasn't. Funnily enough, it wasn't actually a female anatomy joke. But I'll start with Ragyog first because there's a bit
Okay.
more fun in the Snatch name. But Ragyog is just because cleric of Lathander, light. Ragyog is Dutch or Swedish or something for light.
Oh, cool.
Hungarian. So I went with Ragyog.
Awesome.
That's
Um,
cool.
But Snatch, when we were first playing, or first talking about it, I don't really know what name, and I had two really quite boring fantasy names, and Emil was just like, "You should call him Pop and Crumple Snatch," and it was so funny. It was so funny, but I was still like really taking it super serious. I was like, no, I can't call him Pop and Crumple Snatch. And I've thought about it for ages and ages, and then I eventually came around and was like, no, that's a great idea for a full name, but he's just going to be known as Snatch. But in our backstory of the podcast, it never, ever came up until Danny finally brought it in at like book 2, episode 20 or something.
Yeah.
But I remember in the house, because Danny and Emil and I lived together, like we were coming up with heaps of those kinds of names, which were heaps
Oh
of fun.
man,
And
for fucking ages.
I just found my notes in my phone. Like we had, it could have been Bop and Long Croggins.
Oh, bopping.
Snackling Thimble Pot. We had so many dumb ones. Crambling Stinkle Fart. Snitch and Bumble Fat. Like we were just like heaps of
so
names
good.
that kind
Amazing.
of flaky crumble stump.
We found the formula.
Yeah,
for
that's a
how the
formula.
name
That's
should
like an
be
R-rated
structured.
Harry
Yeah.
Potter
And then
formula
just went
right
like,
there.
Oh
boom.
man. I think I used
Emil
one.
was fucking
beautiful.
firing them off.
Here's one. Siggy Faps a lot.
Oh,
Oh, Siggy! Oh, why do we
This-
not
this
get
is-
the faps a lot?
This is a whole campaign.
I
man.
know.
This is-
Imagine
And-
if that was all of our character names.
Oh,
Yeah.
I never
God.
really, because he was going
What a
into
family tree that could have been.
Well, exactly right. And the whole disguise thing, I think for a bit I was thinking of bringing that in. I only ever really found one moment in book 2 somewhere I disguised and came up with one of the names for Franklin Froggle Stomp or something. I don't know. But hey, there's still book 3 to come.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe I'll
Yeah, that's
maybe I'll
true.
bring
Yeah.
him back.
I'll give you
Yeah.
reason to
Your
disguise.
extended, all your cousins rock up.
Yeah. They all sound exactly like Snake.
And as with when our cousins rock up, it's probably
What about Greg and Aileen?
oh yeah. Yeah.
You were getting ready to leave.
Thanks again for cutting me off, Jack. That's
Greg-
the second time in 3 episodes.
Greg's here. It's time to go.
Time. Oh fuck! Don't want to listen to this shit. When I came up with
I'm
Aileen,
sorry, Greg. I
That's
didn't
all right,
mean to
mate.
do
Sorry.
that.
When I came up with Aileen, I was like the last person to pick a character for our campaign because I was like, oh, I'll just pick something that fits in with what everyone else and balances the party.
Yeah.
Which talks to how much I love the rules in 3.5
Mhm.
before we played 5th edition. But I was like, oh, I'd like to play a paladin. And Ben was like, oh no, you can't play a paladin because Dan's playing a cleric fighter and you'll outshine him and he'll be really upset.
Ah!
So
Because a cleric / fighter is A
A
paladin.
Yeah.
paladin.
But I wanted
Um,
more spells.
Well, not really,
Yeah.
but we all know how multi-classing works. So.
Yeah, but paladins are better. So, so I was, and I
That's an
um,
episode for our.
That's a whole different thing. So
Yeah.
I settled on a spellcaster and a sorcerer, and there's actually a record of us writing up our characters somewhere in the vault, which is like a couple of hours of just
It's like
very messy table talk.
3 hours.
Yeah, it's a big
of us
job.
talking over the top of each other.
Yeah.
It's a big job to edit into something releasable.
Yeah.
Mm.
But in that, you can hear me come up with it. But I was in love with a Key and Peele sketch where they do the roll call.
Yes, it's the basketball.
and he gets all the names wrong.
Is it the basketball? Oh, okay.
He's
right.
just in a
it's in a
classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just gets all the names of all the students and students wrong. And Jaqualan and Aaron. And I was obsessed with Aaron, and I knew because ASMR starts with 2 A's. I thought it was an ASMR. And so it just grew from there. And I was like, oh, Aaron's good, but it's too. I'm taking too much from that sketch. I need to come up with a start and an end, and I wanted something really boring, so I just went with Alan. So Alan, Aaron Aeon was born.
So you know what? I never realized that it was just Alan until
Alan.
until and I'd even drawn it in pictures and stuff. And I didn't realize it was just Alan until we went to a live show, and Greg's partner Jade said to me, I just love it. It's like all of these like elaborate names and then just Alan. And then oh my God.
It was the best when I changed my Twitter handle to Alan, Aaron, Aeon, and my Twitter handle was just Alan, Aaron, Aeon.
You can't put the apostrophes in.
Yeah, there's no apostrophe.
You gotta
Too good.
put the emphasis on the right syllable.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true. Do we get to
Oh,
do
gold.
new names
And that
Fun
pretension
characters.
for
is
book 3 or not? No,
Sorry.
we don't get new characters.
That'll
for
be
book 3,
continuing.
do we? No, it's
No.
continuing.
You can.
Insane.
Well, I mean,
you
you
can
could
do a new
probably
character.
I was
do a
just-
new
'cause
character
I-
if you
I-
wanted to, unless you wanted to be Flo.
I didn't
again.
do it intentionally, but I've got Flo, and this character is called Mo. So I
Yeah.
feel like I've created a bit of a monster.
Flomo.
And so the next one's going to be called like Joe or
FOMO.
Bro or
Joe.
FOMO.
Something that rhymes with that.
Crow.
Yo.
ScoMo.
No.
Yes.
That's one of the arch devils. And you can ask
ScoMo
why.
from marketing. Amazing.
ScoMo from marketing.
Oh, well, thanks for listening to our deep dive into our own histories through the mailbag.
Mm.
There are a few questions left over, so we might have to do another record another
I
time.
can't
Yeah.
wait
Um,
to do another deep dive. Into
I mean, we'll
our
have to
own
ask
egos.
Emil some of these questions about
Yeah, he's
names
gotta
as well.
fill
But
in
if,
all the
of course, you
blanks.
have any more questions, shoot them our way because this has been fun.
Yeah, if you're a patron, hit us up on Discord. If you're not a patron and you want to join the Discord, hit us up on social media. And if you've got any questions and you don't want to join the Discord, hit us up on social media as well. Just send them straight to @DicePaperRoll on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook.
But also, like, if you've gotten this far and you're not a patron by now, like, come on, mate.
Come on, mate.
Come on.
Come, bro.
Come, what
Come,
are you
bro.
doing?
Throw us
Gun?
$1 a month.
Go on.
Come on.
What are you even thinking of
Can't.
in the middle of a recession? Fuck,
Yeah.
fuck.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Jeez.
fuck. Oh,
Oh,
I don't want to spend $1 a month.
the global economy's out of whack.
Oh, I can barely
what-
afford my power bills. Like what? You know what?
It's
Get a
$1.
life.
Yeah, geez.
Uh,
Seriously.
I lost my job.
You
My
big
kids
nerd.
are hungry.
Fuck.
What's worse,
Yeah.
people that make a Dungeons and
Nah.
Dragons podcast or people that listen to one? Ugh.
Definitely the people that make it. But
Yeah.
anyway,
No, but seriously, if you are struggling, hit us up. We'll sort you out.
we'll throw you some extra content. But if anyone wants to join the Discord, hit us up as well.
Yeah. We'll give you content, not money.
Yeah.
We can't guarantee that you will be content.
Yeah.
We'll pay
We need
you
money to
in
give it.
exposure to us.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.